It was a great opportunity to go out and see what the Mesonet does in the community. And so from an Oklahoma Climate Survey perspective, we have users all over the state. And when we're in the National Weather Center where our offices are, we get to see those folks every day at the Weather Service. But there are thousands of more people around the state that use our products and services, and we really wanted a chance to get all of our employees the opportunity to meet these people.
Well, the reason why we took the OSU Mesonet trip was we really wanted to get all of the Mesonet folks up to OSU to see the range of research that we have going on, and also see how their programming and their work here on data feeds actually contributes to agriculture and the kind of decisions that people are making.
Yeah, our trip to Stillwater really gave our staff and students an opportunity to see how Mesonet data was used at that campus also. We see all the time uses of Mesonet data here in the Weather Center, but getting to see it at the dairy farms and at the creek restoration and at the botanical gardens was a really unique experience for us.
Thanks. It was a really interesting trip. We saw how the whole agricultural applications of the Mesonet and how useful it is for OSU. We saw cows, horses. I learned a lot about the milking process of cows. And we went to the botanical gardens and learned about the projects that they're having there, such as the pavement project, I think it's called, in which you have a pervious soil and how all that is going to help with the environment.
Well, I work as a programmer, and I work with many of the counterparts at OSU that are responsible for many of the ag-weather-related programs. So it was just fun to see them in their environment.
The first site went in at Stillwater back in June of 1992 as, proof of concept and to show us how to install these sites. And then over the course of the next 12 to 18 months, the other ones went in around the state. So that in 1994, we were able to commission with that first 108 stations around the state.
Well, the partnership between OU and OSU, especially with the Mesonet project, seems a natural, since the Mesonet project works mainly with environmental variables that are completely applicable to agriculture.
I wasn't aware of how much science goes into agronomy and farming and things, but it's just like any other scientific field, same kind of stuff we do in meteorology with statistics and equations and all that.
The Stillwater site was the first Mesonet site to go in, and so the opportunity to present the landowners and the folks that have taken care of that site for the last 2 decades was really an opportunity for us to say thanks. They have so many different types of infrastructure there at OSU up there on their agricultural research campus that it really gives us an opportunity to see how our instrumentation has fit in with the things that they've done for 2 decades.
Well, I think the most beneficial thing was for folks, again, to realize how important the Mesonet data is to so many different projects at OSU, and then through those projects, how they're actually serving folks in agriculture across Oklahoma.
The information that's derived from the Mesonet has an enormous impact on the lives of so many people and activities, not just at this station, but all the experiment stations that have the pleasure of having a Mesonet site.
We were here today talking about a couple of stormwater management techniques that manage stormwater on the landscape, specifically bioretention cells and pervious pavement. So their pervious pavement is pavement that allows water to infiltrate into and underneath the pavement instead of running off, so that you could mitigate some of the water quality and flooding issues that come from urban areas and water running off very quickly. The bioretention cells are pretty much the same thing. They're depressed areas within the landscape that collect water and pool it there, allow it to infiltrate into the subsurface so that it doesn't run off and cause problems in our streams and rivers and lakes.
I do research on the geotechnical properties of stream banks, also how you can strengthen stream banks with vegetation. With research, trying to understand the stability of stream banks both for urban conditions and also rural conditions, so that we can help agencies like Natural Resources Conservation Service talking to the people in the field, also stormwater managers in urban environments.
Mesonet data are really useful when you're trying to size some of these systems, because you need to size them for a specific storm and the amount of runoff that's going to be coming off of the landscape. So by knowing the distribution and the amount of rainfall that's going on at a specific spot, we can utilize that Mesonet data to size our stormwater management controls properly.
I use the Mesonet, the local conditions, every day, of course, to track the weather and figure out what's going on with my stream banks and whether or not we have a lot of erosion going on, depending on the intensity, the amount of how large the storm is, and how much rain we're going to get. So I use some of the products for that. I use your monthly summaries for my reports, and I also do terrestrial LiDAR, and with the instrument that we have, we need metric, barometric pressure, temperature, and also relative humidity.
I was really interested in learning at the Duck Creek watershed restoration and about the use of terrestrial LiDAR to measure erosion, and then the weather data that gets used for that primarily is temperature and humidity, which I assume helps beam propagation. So it helps them convert the LiDAR measurements into physical data of soil erosion.
It's one thing to hear, in an email or in a newsletter about how our Mesonet data is being used across the state. It's different when you actually get to see the users, like we were able to see Mark Hodges talk about how important the Mesonet data was for him at the Wheat Commission. Gary Shearer, how he's able to use all of our data and our great stories at the legislature, and Dave Engel, how it's used in his research at OSU. Hearing them tell their stories face to face, I think was really meaningful to our staff and students.
I would have to say the Botanical Gardens was my favorite, mainly because it was giving me ideas for my backyard garden, but it also emphasized how meteorological variables could be utilized to help identify how native species will grow. And especially with the stream restoration project, he emphasized how she utilized our new Mesonet app for the iPhone.
My favorite part of the trip was to be able to see the camaraderie amongst the OSU folks who use the Mesonet data, as well as the OCS and Mesonet employees that are here in Norman. We did get a lot of fun banter back and forth about the rivalry between the two schools, but most importantly, it's about serving the state. And both universities are really, really good at that.
I've never been so close to horses before, and it was a great experience for me to be so close to them, being able to touch them, pet them. They're really sweet creatures, and there's something that definitely struck me because I had never been able to do that. And again, it might not be the scientific answer you might be expecting from me, but that's one of the things that I enjoy the most.
The Mesonet has learned a tremendous amount from working with folks that are doing agricultural research, and many of the things that we've learned we're able to implement that have helped other parts of our outreach activities. So in many instances, the things that we learn in Stillwater and the things that we learn also here in Norman and the things that we learn at all of the other 118 Mesonet sites allow us to be better at what we do.